I have a special guest with me in the studio, a flip expert and education expert. I have him right here with me in the studio, and we're going to be talking on educators and technology in the 21st century. So thank you so much for honoring my invitation.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
All right, my people out there, they want to know about you.
Okay, so my name is Abdullateef Adedeji. I call myself the flip classroom expert. And what does it mean to be a flip classroom expert? It simply means someone that trains schools and teachers on how they can implement the flip classroom methodology. So, I'm a teacher. I teach mathematics in class, just like every other teacher out there. But then beyond that, I also train teachers and train school owners on how they can leverage technology to improve their teaching and learning, to enhance their teaching career, and to make more money in the future.
To make more money, I love that aspect because I love making money. I love making money. All right, sir, please, can you briefly tell us about your background? Your background experiences, how you started up, and how you come to believe that this is what you should be doing.
Okay, this is something it's really exciting to talk about because just like most students out there, I don't intend to be a teacher. Growing up too, like most of our students out there. But then I processed my admission, tried to get into university to study computer science, which has always been my passion. I wasn't given admission, so I got an opportunity to go to a college of education, study computer science and mathematics, and from there, I fell in love with teaching and decided that wow, this is going to be my own line of work. But then one thing that set me apart from other teachers is that when I want to get into teaching, based on what I've heard about teaching profession before, I make a conscious and intentional decision that I'm not just going to be like every other teacher, that I'm not going to be just like every other teacher, that I'm going to be a teacher with a difference. And that's how we get here. So I started with training teachers on how they can leverage on technology to teach online, and then before we get into the flip classroom methodology.
Wow, that's lovely. And your profile reveals your love and passion for the growth of learners, educators, school owner. Now, what can be done to rethink the education of our children in the 21st century?
Okay, when we talk about rethinking the education of our children in the 21st century, then we first need to, when we say rethink, so rethink always come as a result of we having identified that what we're currently doing is not working, is not giving us the results that we want. And then what we have been able to identify is that the system of education that we are using to teach our kids, our children in this century, is something that is designed for children of 19th and 20th century. So it's not something that can sufficiently prepare them for the future ahead of them, for the future that is driven by technology. This system of education that we're currently using is something that was designed when there is nothing like technology, we're in the industrial age. So now it's very important, it's even more important than ever that we start thinking of, okay, how can we sufficiently prepare our children for the world of work, for the demands of the 21st century? Because the goal of education is to prepare them for the future, for them to be able to be useful to themselves, to their community and society at large. But then if we are not giving them what they need to be able to be useful to themselves, not to talk of to the society in this age, then there's a need for us to rethink. And then when we start rethinking, one thing that will always come forward is technology, because then in a world that is driven by technology, and the best thing we can also do is to start teaching our students with technology and start giving them the orientation they need to be friendly with tech, and for them also to appreciate the usefulness and the importance of technology.
Now, I love that aspect that you said, okay, we need to train, our children how to use technology so that they can at least be sound education wise. But we have the negative impact of technology on the children of nowadays, and that's why you see secondary school students spending hours on Facebook, spending hours on WhatsApp. So how could those negative effects of technology, how could those be tackled and still use technology to teach our children about what they need to learn about life?
Okay, so this is a question I get asked all the time, because based on what I do, I encourage us to give phones to our children. But then analogy I always like to give is that technology that we're talking about here is like a gun in a police officer's hand. If you're going on the street and you see a gun in a police officer's hand, you feel like, wow, this guy is protecting me. The same gun. But if you're going on the street and you see that same gun in an armed robber hand, what do you feel? You feel panic.
I will
that
run
means
for my
the
life.
problem is not the gun. The problem is the person holding the gun. So the problem is not the technology. The problem is the upbringing of our children. And the problem that is there, the major challenge is that we shield them from technology at a very young age. So it's like a cage bird. So we cage them. So when it comes of age where we give them phone to use, they misuse it because they don't have the proper orientation. So the best thing we can do is from a very early age, 5 years, start letting them know. You can some children have phone as early as 5 years these days are.
Yes,
but the problem is what they use it to do. They use it to play game only. So we can start orientating them on what is technology, what does it mean to use technology, how can it be used. I have phone like every other person do, but I don't have game on my phone. Some people wonder, why don't you have game? No, it's because of what I do. So that does not require me to play game on my own phone. So that's the same. So the problem is not the technology. The problem is the proper orientation and upbringing of our children. And that is also one of our responsibilities as educators
and as parents. Okay.
So
So I love that. So what you're trying to say is that parents, before handing over any technology gadget to their children, they should try and train them to teach them about the pros and the cons of that thing that they are putting in their hands.
Exactly.
Because I personally, I know the importance of technology in the hand of children. Now I'm a YouTuber. I have a YouTube channel that I run, but I got to know about YouTube from a small child, which happens to be one of the children of my business mentor. So that day we were just discussing I said, don't you know you can put videos on YouTube and along the line they will be paying you? I said, really? How did you know? He said, come, I will teach you. And that my mentor always trained the children that this is the importance of this phone you are handling. You can make use of it to do this, to do that, to do that. There are some things that I don't know that small child knows. All by the virtue of what? Handling phone correctly. Now, can you briefly tell us the impact of audio visual materials in teaching and in learning?
Okay, so that's one of the ways that we can use technology as educator. So we talk about audio visual materials. We're talking about materials that appeals to both sense of hearing and sense of seeing. And to say in a simple form, that's to use a name to describe that, something that we're very familiar with. We're simply talking about videos. Well, videos are the material or content that appeals to that you can see and hear at the same time. So now, what's the impact of using video in teaching? The impact are numerous. One is that because it appeals to multiple senses, and it also appeals to multiple types of learning styles. So there are students that are auditory learning. They learn best when they hear things. While there are some students that are visual learners. They learn best when they see. Some students are verbal learners. They learn best when they read and write. Now the problem with that's one of the problems with the educational system is that we focus too much on verbal learners. They read and write. But when you bring videos into your teaching, so you stand the chance, you have the opportunity to also cater for the needs of those that are auditory learners, or those that are visual learners, or those that are both, that learn best using videos. Another thing is that it's also more engaging, it's also more interesting. Most of us like videos. All of us enjoy watching video. That's why you can see a kid of 4, 3 years can stay in front of a TV watching Counts from Morning to Night. So the question we have to start asking ourselves is that, as an educator, how can I make my video as interesting as the cartoon they are watching? Instead of them wasting time watching all these things, how can we bring up education content into the same thing, in this same format that everybody likes to watch? So by doing that now, it makes our learning more engaging. It makes learning more interesting for the kids, because it it doesn't feel like work to them. If you tell students go and read, they know that reading is work. But if you tell them to go and watch a video, they enjoy watching video. So those are the impact that audiovisual material can have on teaching and learning.
Now, I remember years ago I was invited to Olaitan Zion College at Afelele, and I was asked to give a motivational talk to the children. So they made provision of slides and the likes for us. So I took my system there, prepared some slides, and I started. At first, the session was engaging, it was interesting to me and to the children. But it got to a time that maybe it was because I loaded the slides too much at the latter end. So I myself, I wasn't in it again. I'm not even getting kick from it, and I could see the boredom on the faces of the student. Now, how can a person like me, John D, a motivational speaker, prepare a slide? That's like an audiovisual aid of teaching. So how can I prepare a slide that will engage my audience, and the fire will be at the beginning, at the middle, and at the end?
Fantastic. So when making use of PowerPoint presentational slide, what I always try to tell teachers is that your slide is not a replacement of you. is really aiding you.
So my slide is not a replacement of me.
Yes. So what most teachers do is that they just load their slide with, like, they're writing notes. No, slide is not meant for writing notes. It's meant to just for key points. So you put the key point there. What the student wants to come and watch and listen to is your voice, not the slide. The only thing the slide is helping you achieve is for them to see what you're talking about, the key point that you're talking about. Okay, just to guide the flow of your teaching. But it's not a replacement of you. It's not that you're going to go and take all your notes, lesson plan, and then put it inside your slide. No, you only use key points. Another thing you use when you want to make your slide more engaging is make use of pictures. So you want to teach ABCD now. You want to use slide. Make use of animals with ABCD, like A for ants, B for bird. So put the pictures there. So as they're hearing what you're saying, then they're also seeing what you're talking about. So that will interest them. Now, another thing that most people get wrong is that make use of stories. Make use of stories that relate to what you're talking about. So there is no how people, what I always try to tell teachers is that I always try to tell them that videos can be very interesting, and trust me, it can also be very boring. So for us to not make it boring, there are two major ingredients that you must put there to make your soup sweet. Okay, and those are pictures and stories. So make sure that you use stories that engage, that interest them, so that even if they forget what you're teaching them, they're going to remember the stories. Because stories appears in our mind like images. So even if they forget the facts, they remember the images. And the pictures also are a great way to make your presentation more engaging.
Now, talking about images, creating images, what are those people that are visually impaired? How can we use this? Can we use these audiovisual materials in teaching them?
Okay, that's it. So those are visually impaired may not be able to see what is on the slide, but they can hear what you are saying. And that's another importance of stories. Because the story, why they cannot see physical images, they can see images in their mind. They can construct the images themselves. So when you give them stories, they can actually experience that same story that you are narrating to them. They can experience in their own mind and see everything. And if you ask them later, if there are there are some people that can draw very well, that they don't know how to, they cannot see, but they can actually draw. Those are the advantage. So if you see something like that, someone like that, and you tell them stories, they'll be able to draw that scene for you, the exact scene that you describe for them. They're able to draw it for you.
Sir. Like fortunately, we have those people that are impaired one way or the other listening to us now. Maybe visually they are impaired, or any other way of impairment. Like, how can you get such a person to know that he's not disadvantaged, that he can still learn, he can still make it in life?
Okay, one thing I always try to say when it comes to a question like this is that, let me start from the one that we are used to, is that there's a sense not in the nonsense. There's an advantage in every disadvantage. And trust me, there's an ability in every disability. So what we think about what you call disability is another form of ability. So like I've said earlier this morning, that when you see people, like there's this lady, Ellen Keller, she's blind, but she's one of the greatest poets that's ever lived. She writes so well. So your disability, what you have to understand is that when you are disabled, when you lack an ability in a particular way, that ability, that thing has been compensated for you in another ability. So there are some people that they cannot see very well, but then their sense of hearing is like, it's not 100%, it's 1000%.
1000%.
So what people inside cannot hear, they can hear from outside. So they can see things that other people cannot see, just by their own hearing. They have that heightened sense of hearing. So your ability, what you think is your disability, what you just have to look for is look for the advantage in your disadvantage. Look for the ability in your disability.
What I could pick from that is that there's nobody on the head that is disadvantaged. No. We all have advantages. The only problem is that we are focusing on the disadvantage. Yes. Wow, that's lovely, Mr. Abdullateef Adedeji. Like, in practical steps, how can teacher leverage on technology to enhance their teaching career and also make extra income? I mean, extra income. I'm particular about that.
Yeah. Okay, let me start from the back, because making extra income is very, very important.
Very, very.
What I always tell teachers is that I've seen teachers that complain, and that's one thing that's why you see that most students don't want to become a teacher, because actually they don't see anyone they see their teacher, they can't say, I want to be like this person when I grow up.
I'll tell
because the teacher is working, is trekking to school,
they try together actually.
Yes, they go together. Okay, so for us to get the life we desire, we need to make more money. Then we need to understand that school now cannot pay you the money they're not collecting. so they cannot pay you more than what they are bringing in. So what that means is that you have to start thinking, and this is not just ordinary thing. I mean, intentionally thinking of how can I make more money for my teaching skill, and that's what technology has helped you to do. Can help you achieve. Why? Because technology gives us a playing ground. Technology make the world borderless. That means I can be here right now. I can be in Offa right now, and I can be teaching someone that is in America. I can teach someone that is in your state. Why? Using technology. There are platforms like Zoom that you can use to connect with students all over the world and teach them and collect your money. Trust me, you have all it takes. You have the knowledge. Some of you have been teaching mathematics for like past 15 years. You have produced wire candidates that have aced their mathematics multiple times. But the problem is that your teaching is limited to the four walls of your classroom. You are just a local champion. The only people that know about your genius is those people that
are around you in your locality.
But then one thing I believe so much is that you're not the salt of your kitchen soup, of the soup in your kitchen. You're the soul of the earth. You're the light of the world.
The light of the world.
So the one thing you must learn to do, and you must constantly do, is to put yourself out there, so that you are not limited to that four walls of your classroom. And that's what technology helps you to achieve. Because if you check it, no matter how good you are, you cannot teach 100 students at a time. And there's a law that is called law of affection. It says that the more people you can reach, the more richer you're going to be, the more money you're going to make. And that's what technology helps you to achieve, because it gives you that advantage to actually reach more people. And when it comes to advancing your teaching career, one thing, if you ask me to describe advancement, I'll call it having fulfillment, more fulfillment. The money part is there, but then doing something, I know that I do this thing well, and my students are really impacted by what I do. And I've explained one of the ways you can do that earlier, by leveraging on audiovisual material. So by making use of video, now your learning become more interesting, more engaging, more impactful for your students. So these are the ways teachers can actually leverage on technology.
Wow. Now, so what are the things expected of an educator to remain indispensable? Because it is one thing to get to the top; it's another thing to stay there. Yeah.
And I will add that it's actually easier to get to the top than to remain there. The other parts, many people get to the top.
The other part is staying there.
People get to the top every day, but then immediately they get to the top, they come back. Why? Because they don't have some required skills. So one of the things you need to do as an educator to remain indispensable is that you have to have an open mind. You have to be open to changes. You can't be loyal to anything. The only thing you have to be loyal to is your teaching career, because the world is experiencing disruption every single day. Things are changing every day, and then for you to remain relevant and indispensable, you must be willing to change with change. I'm very sure you have heard of the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are very powerful animals, powerful than lions and all these animals that you know. But because they are not able to evolve, because they are not able to change with times and season, what do? They go into extinction. The same thing for you. They're not able to change. Look at what is trending. Look at what is happening. Another thing is that you don't have to be the same with every person. I always say that people are not going to pay you for your similarities. They're not going to reward you for what make you similar to other people. They reward you for what to make you different. But the problem is that most of us, we always want to stay the same with people. Okay, so you have to be willing to look around, like look outside the box. Look at what are people doing, or what are people not doing that they ought to be doing, and do it. When you do it, you become indispensable in your industry. Check it. Check your school. Who is that teacher that if you leave your school today, half of your school are going to leave? Yes, if you go and check, you see that teacher is doing what most teachers are not willing to do. And I had this particular statement from Les Brown around 2 years ago, and it changed my life completely. He said, you have to be hungry. And what me call hungry is that he said that for you to, people that are hungry are willing to do today, I mean right now, what others are not willing to do, so that they can have tomorrow what others are not going to have. So for you to be indispensable, you have to be willing to do what others are not willing to do. You have to be willing to read books. Like recently, I'm reading a book, Psychology of Selling, and a guy met me and asked me, he loved the book I'm reading. I asked him, what do I do? I said, I'm a teacher. He was surprised. Teacher reading Psychology of Selling.
What are you saying?
How does it relate? So that's it. But I'm not just a teacher, and that's why I'm different. So you have to read books beyond just biology and chemistry textbook that you read for your class.
Wow.
You have to be willing to learn are beyond what you are even being taught. You have to be willing to learn.
Wow.
Like
wow.
what I do right now, I'm teaching on flip. I train schools and teachers on flip classroom right now. I wasn't taught in my school, so it's a result of me learning. So you too, you have to learn. Most of us, we are only regurgitating what have been taught 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah, you go.
So you have to be willing to learn. You have to open to changes. You have to be willing to take risk. Because one of the things they're going to do also will require you to risk being rejected, to risk people calling you names. But when we start doing things different now, they will talk. They will tell you, you have joined them. So they have joined them. You have to be prepared for that.
You know, people will always talk. My fans out there, we have been listening to Mr. Abdullateef Adedeji, a flipped classroom expert, an educator, a teacher training teachers. So thank you so much for honoring our invitation today. I'm so glad. In fact, I'm blessed. I know from now on, if I'm invited to give a talk to a school, the student will not be bored again.
Yeah,
because my slide will be powerful. I'll make sure it's only the key point that I put on those slides, and I make them to listen to me, not to the slide.
To add pictures
and I will add pictures. Thank you so much. But what is your final word for our listeners?
Okay, my final words for teachers is, as I've mentioned before, be open to change. And then be willing to do what others are not willing to do, because that's where the glory is. They said that there's a path less traveled, so that's really where the glory is. So, and if you check, you see that it is overcrowded at the bottom, but there are very few people at the top. So the few people at the top are people that are willing to do what others are not willing to do to get to where they are today. So if you want to be at the top 1% of your industry, you have to be willing to do what others are not willing to do. And trust me, you see people that are there already. You don't have to go through it alone. There's something I always tell my student at home. I always tell them that they have told you, and you know that already, that experience is the best teacher. What they forget to tell you that it doesn't have to be your experience. So learn from experience of others.
Wow.
And you're going to get to where you're going.
Thanks so much, Mr. Abdullateef Adedeji. Thanks for honoring our invitation. Thank you so much. I know some other time we invite you, we still say yes to an invite.
Sure,
Thank you so much. So my fans out there that stick with us from the beginning of this program, and I'm telling you now that thank you for sticking with us. So the program is coming to an end now. This is where I'll be drawing the curtain on today's edition of Fair for Success. Beat the best and be the best. Please make it a date with me next week, Monday at 9:30 a.m. and I'm telling you, you are going to be blessed. So until next week Monday, same time that I'm going to be coming your way, ensure to fulfill your vision and your passion to be all what you want to become in all aspects of your life. And don't forget to always listen to King FM 105.7.